Hey folks, today we're going to be doing a little more Highlander, which means all these players are communicating on the mic and have a little bit of experience in TF2, if not a lot. That means we're going to have to bust out some of the fancier tricks from time to time. The key to a successful trick stab is speed and lack of predictability. Or better yet, false predictability. Here I pretend I'm rounding this corner, and what I'm really doing is positioning myself to strafe into the scout for the stab. However, a lot of the time speed will suffice. Now, during a push is a great time to go into action. You definitely want to be alive for these. You can get lots of relatively easy picks because people are distracted and have multiple targets to worry about. There's also a lot of noise and chaos. Keep track of the combo though. Here I notice that my team's got them pinned back, and I'm hoping that they'll backpedal at this point, but they don't, and a little fancy strafing has to do the job. Trick stabs, however, are mostly desperation moves. You want to really focus on perfecting your decloaks, knowing how far away you can cloak with someone depending on the noise level, and keeping your eyes on your enemy's sight lines and where they're looking. Awareness is key. Now, here I'm going to go for the sniper, and I flub it. My finger slips from the crouch key, and I whiff the stab. While flashy trick stabs are great and all, probably the most reliable one is the plain old drop stab. This requires a bit of prediction and some fancy strafing from time to time. To learn that, I recommend you play some soldier or demo man and get used to rocket jumping and moving through the air. TR walkway can be really useful for that too. Now here I'm going after the medic. He's typically the biggest pick in Highlander. My plan is to decloak behind this dispenser so I'm partially obscured, and the sound of the healing beam will mask the sound of my decloak. Doesn't quite work out, but I've got a little bit of elevation to save me. You don't need a whole staircase for a jump stab. Any amount of elevation at all is enough. Now here I'm going to go for the teleporter, but the fire makes it through first. I sat by reflex and managed to get a nice little speedy side stab by strafing and releasing W. Of course, it always helps to get the jump on your opponent. The DR allows for some really aggressive play. You can get right up in a soldier or demo's face and make them hurt themselves with their fire, then decloak immediately and finish them off with your gun. Now typically, I avoid dispenser stabs. They let the enemy team know where you are, and they're not very valuable. However, I'd already been spotted out at that time. I managed to escape by sinking my Feign with the Pyro's air blast to extinguish the flames. That's often the only means of escape you have with Pyro, so it's something you really want to get down. Now, notice that medic was backpedaling. When people backpedal, they move slower, and you can turn and strafe into them so you move faster and reach their back. Well, that's not to say it's not always a good idea to backpedal. It's a really useful maneuver for many a trick stab. When you're not looking at someone and not turning as though you're going to go for a corner, people don't expect the trick. And I have to say, backward stair stabs are a lot better than overhead stair stabs. A little more surprising. Now here I'm going to go for the level 3. That's probably the most important objective at this stage of Upward. The teleporter goes down. The trick here is predicting which way the soldier's going to go. I don't want to drop down because there's a pyro there. Fortunately, I predict that correctly, and he turns away from my decloak because I was slightly behind him, behind the wall. Here's another great example of how aggressive the DR lets you be. I would have never charged that demo with the invisibility watch, and I would have never survived it even if I landed the shots. However, it's hard for you to get into ideal positions. You're going to have to use map knowledge to do that a lot of the time. Now, the invisibility watch is great for getting into good positions, but you are very vulnerable once that cloak runs out. The gun's going to be able to get you out of a lot of those jams, though. Now, there I was holding tab to know whether or not the demo was coming out, and when he was doing it. It's very important to hold tab frequently to know who's up and who's down. Remember to peek around corners while invisible. It's a nice little thing you get to do with the invisibility watch that you don't with the Dead Ringer. Now the Ambassador is a great tool for any spy, especially in wide open areas like this that are relatively flat. It can be relatively easy to land a headshot or two, and often those are going to be fatal if you've got teammates around to help you with damage. One misconception about the Ambassador, though, is that you should always be going for headshots. Oftentimes, body shots are much more reliable. If you know that they'll do the trick, go for those instead of trying to get flashy. However, when you've got targets that are under 102 or at a distance, go ahead and try for a headshot first. If you have to resort to body shotting afterwards, don't feel ashamed. But do try to land the distance shot and get the one-hit kill. Now this demo man is hurt at close range. I just go for body shots because I know I can take one pipe if I charge him. The scout, however, is under 102 at a nice distance, so I definitely go for the headshot first. That sniper, I was simply trying to body shot, but I probably should have gone for the headshot. However, with this medic, it's clear what I gotta do. Medics heal over time, and I probably am not going to be able to get off 3 body shots. Snipers are dangerous to snipe against. There, I wanted the sniper to not engage me quite yet. I pretended to go around the corner, and he bought it, so I got off a free headshot rather than going head-to-head with him. Now once again, hold tab. I notice the medics in spawn, and that's a key pick. And pretty easy when they don't see you coming. Now here, I'm going to try to decloak as fast as possible so they think I'm not coming back for a little while. I disguise as a sniper since that's the class that should be in that location, and it's a class that doesn't shoot constantly. I keep my eyes on the friendly heavy and strafe behind the combo instead of running forward. Notice that while there are no enemies around, I keep my gun out, not my knife. A lot of spies seem to have the habit of running around with their knife for no real reason. An enemy could have come from the shutter or above, and I want to be ready to shoot them right away. Here I'm disguised as a scout. Even though you move slower than a real scout, scouts can come from almost any place at any time. The team doesn't have a very good idea of where he is, and if you hop and backpedal, it can actually look pretty convincing. Now, while the DR excels at gutsy acting like that, the Invisibility Watch offers a lot that the DR doesn't have too. It allows you to get into the most opportune spots and make the biggest plays that are often just unavailable to you with the DR. The Cloak and Dagger is similar, but excels more in timed picks and situations in which you don't have a lot of distance to cover. Here I'm timing my pick with my team's Uber push. This is a really key time to be alive. Not only is it ripe for backstabs because everyone's distracted and there's a lot of noise, it's simply the most important time for those plays to be made. The kills will matter more. The Cloak and Dagger also excels at providing intel to your team. Enemy positions, where they're going, who's up, what the Uber percentage is at. That's all very valuable info that you can just kind of camp around and report to your teammates in a time where you wouldn't be very active anyway with the other watches. And as always, never forget you have a gun. Regardless of which watch you're using, if there are enemies to be shot, shoot them. The only time really not to do that is when it'll give your position away. It'll also fool your enemies into thinking you're just using the gun, when really you might be cloaking behind that object to stab them. But really, the damage output's significant, and not to be forgotten. Now this part's a little painful to watch. I should have called stickies either earlier or louder. I'm not sure which I failed to do. But comms are very important. They really do save lives. I guess I'll end this just with a simple reminder. Whenever you get in trouble, just remember, smile, and do a little dancing. You'll be surprised how often it'll work out. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.